Randall Burnett dreamed that his racing career would reach the highs of the Gateway Arch. Born in a town where racing was part of their DNA, Burnett would race go-karts and eventually pursue a degree in mechanical engineering. Burnett would use that degree to kick open the garage door of the NASCAR Cup Series, getting a plethora of opportunities with various race teams to build up his skill set. All of his hard work and late nights would lead to one Sunday afternoon where Randall Burnett's entire journey would come full circle. NRF Productions presents Randall Burnett's Full Circle NASCAR Journey. So, if you want to know where the heart and soul of St. Louis racing culture resides, you have to go about 25 minutes west from downtown to Fenton, Missouri. Do not let this small town's population of 4,000 people fool you. This was a town where some prominent people had their humble beginnings in life. Most notable of these residents are NASCAR Cup Series winners Rusty Wallace and Ken Schrader, with Rusty going on to be the 1989 champion and one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers. Randall Burnett was familiar with the Wallaces and Ken Schrader because he was born in the same town. Randall Burnett was woven into the racing culture of Fenton, Missouri, especially considering that he was born to a blue-collar family. His dad was a hard-working construction worker by day, go-kart business owner, and sometimes late-model racer by night. Burnett's barricade to racing was broken by a company called Trackside Motorsports. Run by the Burnett family, Randall got to take his go-kart to tracks all across the greater St. Louis area. Okay, believe it or not, but one of the most unique stops in his go-kart career was some land that was deemed a swamp. And no, Shrek didn't have his entire shack and outhouse in this area. That was a label given to the original owner of the property in Madison, Illinois. Helen Bergfield never thought that piece of land would be valuable. So you can just imagine her reaction when the property was sold to Wayne Meinert. His plans for the property were as big as the big city of St. Louis across the river. Meinert would turn the swampland into a drag strip and a road course. This brand new complex would be known as the St. Louis International Raceway. Burnett would continue to race on the road configuration before, like himself, the property started to hit puberty. Chris Pook would pull off St. Louis Racing's Louisiana Purchase, buying nearby land to overhaul the property and build a 1.25-mile superspeedway oval. A piece of land that was once swampland now played host to kart, NHRA, and NASCAR Busch Series races. As Randall Burnett got to watch the Wallace brothers and Ken Schrader's race the Gateway International Raceway, Burnett still had dreams of adding himself to the long list of St. Louis racing greats. Once Randall Burnett graduated high school, he was as smooth as Chuck Berry, taking off his jacket and sliding through a window of a train en route to Charlotte, North Carolina. At least, that's what I'm guessing took place. Anyways, the only person Randall knew in the area was Joe Walsh, Ken Schrader's nephew. In the short term, Burnett faced some strong emos and Zetas withdrawals. But it was all worth it in Burnett's pursuit of learning about the racing business. Randall Burnett didn't just spend his time learning mechanical engineering at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. He spent his free time doing a couple things like sandblasting cars for the Fast Track High Performance Driving School. And believe it or not, despite being hundreds of miles away from downtown St. Louis, Randall Burnett still made daily trips to the Lou. Now, what he would spend his time doing at the Lou was less than desirable, and I'd rather not get into it. By the time he got his degree, now Burnett had some decisions to make about his career. He could have gone into retail and did the Walmart cheer for minimum wage. Instead, Randall Burnett would have a different cheer in mind. Fresh out of college with that piece of paper, Randall Burnett would get the opportunity to work alongside winners at Chip Ganassi Racing. For 10 years, Burnett was the utility guy in the engineering department, playing a role in Jamie McMurray's magical season that saw him win the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same calendar year. He also got to work closely with one of CGR's development drivers at the time, Kyle Larson. In his last 3 years, he worked his way up to become the lead engineer for the number 42 Cup car. This was the phase in Randall Burnett's journey where he got to learn about what it takes to compete in NASCAR, specifically the NASCAR Cup Series. Working closely with some of the best drivers and best crew chiefs, both at the shop and at the racetrack. However, toasted ravioli typically wasn't part of his road diet. Professional auto racing in the St. Louis area hit its dark ages in the early 2010s. Gateway's bid for a prestigious, money-making NASCAR Cup Series race ended up falling short due to the additions of Kansas and Chicagoland to the schedule. Under the ownership of Dover Motorsports, this racetrack was being flushed down the loo. In all seriousness, I am from the greater St. Louis area, and I don't think I've heard one person call St. Louis the loo outside of Nelly. Gateway International Raceway had been stripped of all of its NHRA and NASCAR events. Motorsports in St. Louis nearly went extinct. Fortunately, a former racer turned real estate developer, Curtis Francois, saw potential in the property. He was someone that wanted to see the racing scene in St. Louis fly as high as a cardinal, working hard in the 2010s to rebuild a facility that was left for dead and try to get them back on the NASCAR schedule. All while this was going on, Randall Burnett was continuing to pursue his own St. Louis racing story in North Carolina, putting in the blue-collar hard work, late nights, and cross-country travel necessary to make it in this industry. His dedication and perseverance in motorsports was just one life-changing phone call away. Ultimately, Randall Burnett would achieve that opportunity of a lifetime, something that would justify missing all those Cardinals playoff runs, Blues playoff chokes, and Rams 7-9 seasons. The JTG Daugherty racing team was looking to soar up into the sky as high as the Spirit of St. Louis. Unfortunately, those expectations were missed in 2015 as AJ Allmendinger went from a playoff driver to 22nd in points. JTG Daugherty Racing felt they needed a crew chief that had engineering skills, leadership abilities, plus knowledge and experience on how to make a car go fast. Randall Burnett to them fit those qualities. AJ liked that Burnett had worked various different roles and felt that they would see things through the same lens as driver crew chief. Under the leadership of Burnett, who had the spirit of St. Louis, he would help this 47 team get back off the ground. Year over year, AJ Allmendinger earned more top 5s, more top 10s, and finished top 20 in points for the second year of his career. For 2017, JTG bit off more that they could chew with all the B2B food sponsors coming in from the Kroger deal. This expansion led to subpar results for AJ Allmendinger, and at the 1/3 point of the season, Randall Burnett was replaced with Tristan Smith. So like the Spirit of St. Louis, Randall Burnett's crew chiefing career got off the ground. Even though he had trials and tribulations now, his experience would welcome him to new opportunities in welcome North Carolina. Burnett was assigned to RCR's flagship Xfinity car, the number 2, and that's not just something that a lot of people do in the Lou. Cup Series stars Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer made this one of the most prestigious cars to drive and crew chief. Now, Burnett would write the next chapter in the RCR number 2's winning history, working with the likes of Austin Dillon as well as Paul Menard in 2017 and leading Matt Tifft to the playoffs a year later. As for 2019, such a glorious year, it was a high note for the entire city of St. Louis. The entire region had sung their hearts out to Gloria by Laura Branigan to celebrate the St. Louis Blues. A team that gave all of us one memorable run to erase 5 decades of failure. Meanwhile, Randall Burnett was carving out a square which would be his portion of success in 2019. At Talladega, he would get his first taste of NASCAR victory lane as a crew chief with rising prospect Tyler Reddick. This would be an elite driver crew chief combo to restore RCR back to relevance in the Xfinity Series. Whether it was Reddick's driving or Burnett's strategy like at Las Vegas, they wouldn't be singing the blues after this season. On the back of a 6-win season, Randall Burnett would become a NASCAR Xfinity Series champion. Richard Childress took notice, and with RCR's Cup program stagnated, the entire number 2 team was promoted to the NASCAR Cup Series for the 2020 season. Over the next 3 years, Tyler Reddick and Randall Burnett got to be each other's firsts. How special. First playoff appearance, first Cup win, and first season learning this next generation car. This Lion's Choice right combination was taking the Metrolink to success before Reddick would surprise the industry with that infamous Zoom bombshell. Randall Burnett was in for the biggest challenge of his career. He wouldn't just have a new driver, but try having the winningest active driver in the Cup Series. Someone extremely particular about how the car drives and will chew you out if it isn't done right.
Dude, we just fucked our car for no reason and lost 4 laps.
Kyle Busch's style was detail-oriented. The two had to adjust some of their processes, but it didn't take long for either Kyle and Randall to return to their winning ways. Getting the victory at Auto Club, which was redemption for losing the Daytona 500 when Kyle Busch was leading at the 500-mile mark.
Damn, Daniel!
In addition to winning in Talladega, Alabama, the site of his first career win as a crew chief. Randall Burnett had established himself as a crew chief, however, he wasn't the only St. Louis racing success story of the late 2010s. The newly named World Wide Technology Raceway was in the midst of its golden era, successfully hosting NHRA, the NASCAR Truck Series, as well as IndyCar caught the attention of Ben Kennedy and various leaders at NASCAR. Once on the verge of its grandstand seats being sold for scraps, Gateway would host its first NASCAR Cup Series race on June 5th, 2022. Randall Burnett didn't just have a home race, but the opportunity to see his NASCAR Cup Series journey come full circle. The St. Louis sports scene continued its roaring late 2010s, early 2020s, even as the Cardinals and the Blues had their worst seasons in over a decade. St. Louis City was having a record-breaking season for an expansion team in the MLS, debunking that Stan Kroenke lie that St. Louis was a 2-sport town. Meanwhile, professional football was back in St. Louis as caca became the law as the Battlehawks set the standards for spring football. Now in this second week of June, St. Louis was again ready to make waves in the sports scene. The second ever NASCAR Cup Series race at World Wide Technology Raceway sold out of grandstand tickets. Among those people in the crowd were a lot of people Randall Burnett grew up around in Fenton. His mom, stepdad, high school classmates, and friends would watch him do his full-time job on the other side of the catch fence. So to go back in time, the inaugural Enjoy Illinois 300 saw Burnett's car had a lot of speed before a spin, and once they lost the track position, their race was officially for the loo. Randall Burnett was determined to come back stronger, and in qualifying, Kyle Busch won the pole, meaning that the only car the number 8 would trail on the pace laps was Rusty Wallace's restored Midnight. So as Mike Joy looked to emulate what Harry Carey and Jack Buck did across the river for St. Louis sports broadcasting, the number 8 car crew chiefed by Fenton, Missouri's own would lead the 36-car field to green.
Drop green, drop green!
which St. Louis fans got to see one whole lap of racing before a lengthy lightning delay. Randall Burnett and Kyle Busch got to strategize how they were going to retain the lead, which they would end up doing when the race resumed. Kyle Busch in that first part of the race was like, "I drive fastly, call me Jeff Gordon." It was clear that if you wanted to win this race, you had to beat that number 8 car. As of this recording, the 2023 Enjoy Illinois 300 is the most dominant performance of Randall Burnett's crew chief career in Cup. As the race was starting to unfold, a lot of drivers are like, "Oh, it's getting hot in here." That's what Carson Hocevar, Tyler Reddick, and Bubba Wallace thought after having brake rotor issues. The main theme of the 2023 Gateway race. Randall Burnett expected this because the teams were less conservative than Corey Busch with their setups compared to last year. Fortunately, the Yates rotor issues weren't as bad because they were a top 5 car, meaning that they didn't have to work the rotors as hard because they weren't back with the squirrels. There would be a lot of cautions, but fortunately Kyle Busch was the MVP on restarts like Albert Pujols and Kurt Warner were MVPs in their respective sports. On the race's final restart, Kyle again would distance himself from Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Kyle Larson. Randall Burnett watched his car fly by to take the final lap of the Enjoy Illinois 300. Maybe on that final lap, Randall Burnett watched that number 8 car fly by and envisioned himself driving go-karts on the old St. Louis International Raceway. Or maybe he was just praying that that car would come back around. On June 4th, 2023, Randall Burnett got to achieve something that fellow Fenton residents, the Wallace brothers and Ken Schrader, never got to do. Randall Burnett's entire story and dedication woven in the fabrics of racing would lead to this full circle moment. Winning a NASCAR Cup Series race in the greater St. Louis area as a crew chief.
Kyle Busch will get his 63rd career victory in the NASCAR Cup Series.
So, history remembers this as just one of Kyle Busch's 63 wins as of this recording. Nothing special. However, for Randall Burnett and the greater St. Louis area, this was a full circle moment. From the humble beginnings of racing go-karts on a piece of swampland, all the way to being the winning crew chief in front of a sellout crowd for a NASCAR Cup Series race on a speedway oval, both of which taking place on that same plot of land in Madison, Illinois. So after the race, Randall Burnett was probably told by his family and friends that he had a race to prepare for. However, considering his entire journey, Randall Burnett was like, "I can't just snooze and miss the moment," because this win was just too important. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, especially with all the St. Louis references. If you enjoyed, there's more videos on NRF Productions, or you can check out my second channel, Fuel Cell Full, for modern NASCAR content. Other than that, this is Nathan for Digital Gas House. Life's a beach, and then you drive.